So, how many of you ever saw a presentation of me? Oh, wait, I have a slide actually.
Slides.
We're kind of used to different accents over the days, and mine is again a little bit different. So, how many of you ever saw a presentation of me? By me, yeah. Okay. And for how many I'm totally strange? And for how many I'm both like? Okay. And thank you for being here on the second day of this convention, actually spending your time and energy in learning how you can actually work on your own health and on your clients' health. And while walking around this conference, I met a lot of people, actually also a lot of people from abroad. Just for my indication, how many people are from the UK? Okay. How many people are from not UK? That's about 25%. So you guys have come a long way to actually get here and get the knowledge. And I really appreciate that you all took the time and effort to get here. Because there are so many people out there that actually should know this knowledge, right? They actually should be here and get the information and change the life or change the life of the patients or the clients. And if everybody would be here, that should be here, then the room would be slightly larger. So, and if you look at it, what success is or something, or what progress is, like 80% of success is showing up. Everybody heard of that?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing that like just by showing up, you're already 80% successful? And I really would like to congratulate you for actually showing up and already getting the 80% of success. And I actually would like to go all over the place and congratulate you, but that would take a little bit too long. So would you please help me and congratulate 3 people for showing up and actually being here? Just congratulate 3 people. So, my name is Rob van Oberling, and the talk is called Chase the Pain or Take a Quantum Leap. And the intention of this talk is to give you some insights into metamedicine and how you can apply it in your daily practice, either with tapping or with other kind of psychological modalities. And metamedicine is mainly focused on physical issues. There are some mental issues, but mainly on physical issues. So if a client comes into you in your practice with lower backache, with an asthma, with lung issue or whatever, so where do you start tapping on? That's the topic of this talk, show, whatever. And it's my intention that by the end of the talk, you at least have some hints on how you can go about it. Is that okay? So you can actually practically apply the principles. I have this background in software engineering. Usually I'll let that penny drop for a second. Because that's one end of the spectrum, like real autistic people sitting behind the computer, shoving food and drinks to the inside and hoping something comes out. And during the time I was a real specialist in finding bugs. And bugs are like these failures in computer software. And I was really in tune with finding patterns and finding the issues in patterns that are not working. And while I was working in that area, I was also interested more in people. So what makes people tick? And I started doing different courses like aura healing and chakra balancing and energy work. And for me as a software engineer, it was kind of weird. They were all kind of introduction workshops, so I dove into it to see what could I get from it, but I couldn't apply it then. And then I came into contact with NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and there I found things, patterns. I can use them. And then I started learning everything about NLP, and then I moved into hypnotherapy and EFT and all this, a little bit more for me, weird science. But it's interesting. And during that time, I think it was 98, my grandfather got sick. He contracted cancer and he was on his final stages of his life. And I felt so frustrated. I learned all these techniques, I learned all this information, and I didn't know what to do. How many can relate to that? Okay, thank you. So I started researching further and further into how the mind and the body actually interact, and how I can change the mind, or what can I do on an emotional level or on a belief level to actually change the body. And I was so into that, I was so, I don't know how you say it in English, but it really grabbed the topic and I couldn't let it go. So I started reading anything that I could read on cancer and emotions and how that influenced each other. And that's actually resulted, I was looking for a book that gave me all the answers and the scientific background of it, the references, where it was researched on a medical or on a psychological level, but I just couldn't find it. So I basically decided that I'm going to write my own book. So I started researching the original papers and reading the books and finding patterns, right? Finding patterns, what made people change? What is the general pattern between people who contracted cancer and spontaneously cured themselves? And actually, when you go into there and when you start looking for it, there's a tremendous amount of research there. There's so much information there, but it's just on a little spot there, on a little spot there, on a little spot there. It's not really consolidated. So that's what I did with my book. I kind of consolidated all of the information, put all the references in there. So if you want to read the original paper, you just know where to look for. And basically that kind of changed the way a lot of medical people were thinking about it. Because for medical people, they need to have a background, right? Which is good. They need to have the scientific proof. If you look at most research papers on, hey, this is my journey, or this is a journey you can take to conquer your illness and move towards health, the reference page is almost empty. At least there are no research papers there. So when I published my book, there was like a lot of medical people coming in and saying, hey, there is something to learn here. There is something to get to. And that actually makes a bridge, and that was also my goal, to make the bridge from the mainstream medical to more alternative and more energy and more psychological work. And actually, I was thinking when I got an email from Christian Nolsberg saying this book can save your life. It's like, cool. And that was software engineering. But that's another something I'm going to talk about today. Because I learned a lot about writing it, and I learned a lot about what I can do about it. Why? Why do people get sick? Is it a mistake of the body? Is it some kind of false gene? Some misinformed bodily? So that sent me on a second mission. And then that mission is to find what's going on in the body. And over the years, I developed my own personal vision for my company, for the things I do. And that's all about empowerment. My mission statement or vision statement, whatever you call it, is healing the world by empowering other people to heal themselves. For me, it's all about other people. It's not about me, it's how they can heal themselves, how other people can work on themselves. So my talk today is mainly focused on why people get sick. But also, if you're not get sick, why do you actually want symptoms to develop? Isn't that weird? Why do you want? I don't have pain. I would like to have some pain. What's the use? So when you know the parents, you can know exactly where to work on, where to tap on, or where to do psychological interventions straight away, within a second, or actually within a minute. Within a minute, talking to a person, just presenting a physical issue, know what question to ask to find the specific emotional situation behind the event. We are on, I can say that, right? We're on an energy convention. Is that correct? Matrix convention, but it's all about energy, right? And yesterday I saw this t-shirt. Really fun. How many of you love energy? Just ask me, right? And for the last day and a half, we're sitting here in our chair, enjoying the different speakers and listening to it. And our energy is kind of stuck in the chair. So, and what happens when energy is stuck? You need to start tapping. Or you need to start doing something else. Right? So let's start moving. Let's start moving the energy. And it's a very simple 3-step plan. It's feel, do, feel. How hard can it be? So first, notice how you feel right now. By the way, are you in for an experiment? Yeah. Okay. Just feel how you feel right now. Where is your energy? What are your main thoughts? How large is your energy or how small is your energy? And just write in a few words on a piece of paper how your energy is right now. Just in a few key words for yourself. Okay. Now please come back. And spread a little bit around the room. Spread a little bit around the room so you have a little bit of space. And first start moving, shaking your hands a little. You can do it up there, you can do it down there, it doesn't matter. Just shake your hands a little bit. And while you continue shaking your hands, like include your arms a bit. So your arms get shaking a bit, include your shoulders and your back, include your knees, or include your head, like so let's kind of hydrate. And keep shaking while listening to the following song. Keep shaking while you're doing something. Keep shaking. I like the body move on the side of the music. Just be silent. Just feel. Just feel. Where is it? How do you feel? How large, how small it is? What are your thoughts? Okay. Make a mental note of it. Take a seat. How many of you was the energy the same? How many of you was it different? Was it fun? Back to the subject. So, does the body make mistakes, or does the body doesn't make a mistake? So, how many of you feel like or think that the body can make mistakes? Okay, thank you. How many of you think the body can never, ever make a mistake? It's kind of an extreme. Okay, think. And how many of you think like, I have no clue? I don't understand it. I personally believe that the body doesn't make mistakes. Think of it. Like, you grew out of one cell, multiplying into 2, into 4, into 8, into 16, until you got like 50 trillion cells. In the course of development, the child falls again, it falls somewhere, bruises something, cuts itself, got a bacteria, got a virus, and everything actually monitors and perfectly into health in general, right? And we don't have to think about it, it just restores itself. Or think about when you cut yourself. I got this nasty bite wound of a dog. I was really amazed what happened. At first, it started really bleeding hard to get the stuff that was from the outside to get it, prevent it from going in. Then it started slowing down, and then a very small crust came on top of it. And then to protect it from the outside stuff coming in again. Then the crust got a little thicker to create actually second skin. And then it started itching. And when it starts itching, you need to peel it off. At least I feel like I need to peel it off. And then when I peeled it off, there was a little skin underneath. And that little skin got thicker and thicker. And in the first time frame, it was like really, really thick and sturdy. It was not elastic at all. Like generally, the skin is kind of elastic, but this was like really tough, like almost leathery-like. And that lasted for a few weeks, few months, and then it started getting back to elastic again. Isn't it amazing how the body repairs itself? So that the thicker layer of skin was like, actually, like, dude, Rob, if you do that ever again, now I'm stronger. For the same force, dog will not hurt you. And that was all happening while I was eating, walking, thinking, studying, digesting. All that happened at the same time. So I think the body doesn't make mistakes. I think the body is way too clever to make mistakes. So if the body does not make a mistake, then for everything that happens in the body, there's a specific purpose. And when you know the purpose, you can do something about it to change the process of diseases. Let's do a little exercise. And And we're going to get back to the exercise a little bit later on. So, I guess you're pretty much all therapists or coaches, right? How many of you is therapist in one way or another? Okay, that's probably most of you. Imagine a client coming into your office for the first time and said, like, I have these amazing stories I heard about you, and I really need to go to you because you probably can cure my tonsillitis. What would you do? What would you do as an intervention for tonsillitis, inflamed tonsils? Just write down a little bit for yourself. What would you do on a mental, emotional belief side when the client comes to you and presents the issue, like I have this chronic tonsillitis. Every few months, my tonsils get inflamed and really troublesome. Write it down on these papers, and we'll get back to it. For the next exercise, it's also a small exercise. I'm going to invite one of you to sing a song. Don't worry, everything is safe. If you don't know the lyrics, I haven't been. So everything's safe. And as soon as you pick the person, it's fully random, so I don't know where I'm going to pick. So when I pick the person, please come up to the stage real fast, so we can start singing immediately. If you ever did this exercise before, just play along. Just play along. But before you start singing, it's a good thing to hear the song, right? Because what are we singing? So let's do a small piece of good being. Any idea why I don't use PowerPoint? Because everything always works. Sounds a little bit hard. It sounds familiar, right? Never heard it before. The lyrics are pretty simple. Just in case I have the lyrics here. So you're so to listen, not again. So in order to pick the random person, I created something. So please stand up again. And don't start the exercise yet. Wait, just stand up. This morning, before anyone entered the room, I prepared one of your seats. Don't look at it yet. And on one of your seats, there's a little coin taped. In a minute, just check your seats to see if there's a coin. And if the coin is under your seat, you're the lucky winner. But also check your neighbor's seat, because they may have missed it. Okay? Ready? Check your seat. Check your seat. Who is the lucky winner? Who is the lucky winner? Check your neighbor's seat, because they may have missed something. All right. Do we have any up here? There is no point. There is no point. But what happened to your body? How many of you have tense muscles? How many of these feeling in the stomach? How many of you have suddenly running thoughts about what a crazy Dutch guy? Or thoughts like, no way. How many have the feeling of increased adrenaline? How many felt like this general feeling of a little bit stressed? How many were looking forward to it? It's just a situation, right? There's no good or bad. It's not stressful. It's not stressful. It's just an event. Depends on how you create in your own mind if it's a stressful event or non-stressful. So when you start putting that experience and you cut it in pieces, there was this first trigger. And the trigger can be me asking somebody to come on stage. That can be the trigger like the music starts, like now, oh my God, this music is really hard. It can be anything. The trigger that started with your personal experience. Because half an hour ago there was nothing going on, or it was slightly different, and suddenly something happened. At the moment that the trigger happened, and that you experienced the trigger, the stress increased. A little or a lot, depending on how you're mentally processing. In that first period, where you're adapting, it's actually the body adapting to the situation. The adrenaline is not like wincing there. It's like, how fast can I run away? The tense muscle is not like coincidence. Do I need to get someone to get away? Do I need to open the door? Or whatever. So at stress, at the first moment, the body adapts to the situation. After you experience the stress moment, at first the body adapts. And a few weeks ago was a presentation of Bruce Lipton, and there he mentioned adaptive mutation. The organism adapts to the situation, to the environment. Bruce calls it the environment. And as we all know, environment is partly what we eat and partly what we think. So it first adapts to the situation. After a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, after that, like this was the exercise, that's the end of the exercise. The adaptation stops. And we got kind of a relaxation phase. It's all right. Didn't pick me. I don't care who it is, but didn't pick me. So that's kind of a safe moment. And in the second phase, after the body adapts itself, it starts to restoring itself. So when there was more adrenaline in the first phase, in the second phase, the adrenaline will go below normal, just to restore itself. You can see that also easily when you look at muscle training, right? You go to the gym, you tear some muscles, or some micro muscles, and then in the second phase, the pain starts. It's repair actually with the muscles. And this entire process, let's finish it. This entire process called an EMAP, Evolutionary Meaningful Adaptation Program. If you play Scrabble, it's like 100 points. It's an evolutionary meaningful adaptation program. We all have these programs running for different tissues, for different organs, and we actually want to have them because they protect us. They adapt to the situation, they adapt to the specific stressor, specific perception, so you can actually cope with the situation. Because if you didn't have an EMAP present, how would you react if a car was approaching you at high speed and you needed to run away? And your body was like, oh, I just had dinner. Hold on. Doesn't happen, right? You don't have to do it consciously either. But at the split moment that you recognize the car speeding into you, and you're in the wrong place, you need to run away or need to jump away. And after the adaptation, the extra adrenaline to run away, the body prepares itself and you get more in relaxation. See how we're doing on time. You can also see that in animals, in dogs, in wolves, in cats, in lions, but also in humans. It all happens at when needed. Actually, these programs, EMAPs, can keep you alive. When you go into a little bit more detail, when you look at the first trigger, you can see that as the acronym do it. It's unexpected, dramatic, isolated, and no strategy. Unexpected meaning like you didn't see it coming. And it can be anything. It can be like, for example, if the trigger was losing your job. I didn't see it coming that I was losing my job. Or I didn't see it coming that I would get the notice on Friday. Or I didn't see it coming that my colleague was still, he didn't lose his job. Or that I didn't see it coming that I couldn't take my computer with me, or that I couldn't take my phone. So the unexpected part doesn't have to be the same unexpected thing that you might think that is unexpected, but it can be a micro aspect of the situation for them. Dramatic kind of speaks for itself. It's like if I drop my yes, it's not that dramatic for me. But if something happens that actually threatens my survival, that is dramatic for me. The I stands for isolated, meaning that you don't really want to talk about it. Or you cannot really talk. Or nobody listens. Like a little boy running home because he's bullied, and mom is making dinner. He said, Mom, I'm being bullied. Not now, I'm cooking dinner. Let's get back to it in half an hour. So the energy is kind of stuck within it. You cannot share it. And usually the isolated is also with themes of like shame or guilt, because that aggravates like not wanting to talk about it. And the isolated and not wanting to talk about it also kind of makes it a little bit difficult for a therapist, because they also don't want to talk about it with the therapist. They'd rather talk about different things. No, I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about something different. And the N stands for no strategy, meaning that you don't know what to do with it. You don't know how to cope with it. You don't know what, do I need to go left? Do I need to go right? Do I need to go forward? Do I need to go backwards? But it all depends on how you interpret situations. Because if I spill water, if I spill it, is that traumatic? Depends where, right? What if I grew up in a family that if you ever spill water on a red carpet, you're a really bad boy. Never ever spill water. Would it be then traumatic if I spill water? It would at least be different, right? Is it traumatic to go on stage and sing? I'm not sure, right? For some people it is, for some people it isn't. It all depends on your interpretation. The event itself has no energy. Spilling water has no energy. Going on stage, singing has no energy. The energy is what you create. Your own personal perception of like spilling water or going on stage and I can't sing. Your own personal perception is what creates the energy. So there's an event, and what makes it unique or not is your own personal interpretation. And when you perceive it as a biological unit moment, then the body starts adapting to the situation. Then an EMAP starts. And the EMAP can be on any organ related to the original trigger. And so is a divorce traumatic? It depends, right? It depends how you create it. Is losing a job traumatic? So it depends. So any situation just depends on how you interpret. No event in and of itself is traumatic. It only is traumatic because I create it as a trauma. Or I think of it like I have a certain belief system that when I perceive that or experience that, that makes it traumatic. So change your perception, change your body. If I perceive it as dangerous, I will react to it as dangerous. If I perceive it as something fun, my body reacts to it as something fun. And we humans have this tremendous capability of creating stress where there's no stress. Like a dog doesn't matter to go on stage and start barking. Even if there are 1,000 people or 2 people on stage. And the most clear example of noticing how your body changes in a specific situation is illustrated by the following example. Just imagine a lemon. A nice, juicy, fresh lemon. I cut it in half, put one off away. Then you have this inside of the lemon, which is slightly different yellow. And the outside of the skin, which is a little bit harder and harder yellow. And then when you squeeze it a little bit, a few drops comes out. And then take a knife and cut it in half, so quarter away. So you have 1/4. You have 2 sides, with the inside of the yellow lemon and the outside. And you can squeeze it a little. So the drops come out. And then you can even smell the freshly lemon juice. You know how it smells, right? And then while you smell it and get really close. For how many of you there was a change in saliva production? Okay. And how many had a real lemon in here? 1. The body reacts instantly to the images you create, instantly to the trigger. It starts producing extra saliva. The EMAP, evolutionary meaningful adaptation program of the saliva glands start being active. The saliva glands belong to the all brain directed tissue. That's something that we're covering in later courses. And so they become more active in the stress phase, so they produce more saliva to actually stress the process. So the body actually starts digesting the lemon, even if there's no lemon there. And that's a good thing, by the way. Right? Not in the imaginary lemon, but in real lemon. So that the digestive fluids start producing enzymes so that the digestive process can start. And for metamedicine, it's really the units are on a biological level, as a physical level. It's not spiritual. It's not so much past life, because it's also for humans And it's for dogs, and it's for zebras, and it's for rabbits, and for wolves. Works the same way. Slightly different, but works in principle the same way. So it might be that having a unit is bad, right? Prevent all units. It's not about the units. It is about how long you're holding on to it. To illustrate that, pick your pen, grab your pen, and pick it in your hand. This way. This point, and really squeeze it hard. Really squeeze it hard, right? And keep squeezing, keep squeezing, keep squeezing. So even if there's a high, keep squeezing it, by the way. Keep squeezing. If there's a high intensity trauma for a short duration, keep squeezing it. If there's a high intensity trauma for a short duration, you get into a relaxation phase pretty quickly, and you restore. No problem. Keep squeezing. How many of you can type? Oh, only a few. Just let it go. Just let it go. Just let it go. So your arm can relax a little. Yeah, shake it out. So even though at first you were squeezing hard, it didn't hurt, right? Did it hurt when you were squeezing hard? In the first second? No. But after a while, it starts hurting, right? So it's holding on to the trauma, holding on to the unit that creates the problems. So you can look at the amount of energy that is built up, the embodied stress, for example, in the red phase. Draw some stress in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 6. We have 6 stress dots there, depending on the intensity and the duration. If the intensity is much higher and the duration is the same, we have more stress dots, right? If the intensity is lower and the same duration, we have less stress dots. The amount of adaptation in the stress phase is roughly the same as the amount of stress that needs to be built up. If you build up some stress, after a unit moment, I build up 6 stress dots. After relaxation, after the shift moment, when I get into relaxation, I need to build up my 6 stress dots, right? Because if I build up only 2, my body still stores 4 stress dots, which is not good. We need to go again back to normality. This shift moment can be anything that's actually lets go of the original form or the specific form. That can be like in this exercise, like I'm saying, like the exercise is over. That can be doing some energy work, like I'm not afraid again not afraid to stand on stage anymore, or in the case of a car approaching you at high speed, you jump away. And the car passing you by. It can be on an emotional energy level, or it can be on a practical level. The difference, though, is if it's only on a practical level, you still are prone for the same stress again and again and again and again. But at that moment, it's gone. Most of the symptoms you'll notice in the restoration phase. So most of the symptoms that you notice, especially like pains in the muscles, pains in the bones, you start noticing in the relaxation phase. It also makes sense on a biological level, because if you're running away from a lion, imagine a rabbit running away from a barking dog, and someone's putting his ankle, hola, I have Owie now here. No, he starts running. And only when he's in safety, he's like, no, I can relax him again. So when you start working with specific symptoms, specific physical ailments, you need to know if the symptom is in the adaptation phase or in relaxation phase, in the restoration phase. Carl, Father, I'm totally lost on time. I know what time it is, but I don't know how long I have. Do I have till what? 1 second. Oh, then I need to talk. I can talk. 1 o'clock. Okay. So if I know what's going on, I can start moving backwards to see if I can find the shift moment or if I can find the unit. And based on the physical changes of the body, I know what themes are running in that person. Because the direct physical reaction has a direct connection to the emotional, physical, or the emotional thing that's going on. Because the body doesn't make mistakes, at least that's what I think. So the body has a specific purpose for generating that specific symptom. There was this beautiful example when I was in the zoo and we saw these gorillas, the tribe of gorillas. And I think there were like 8 or 10 gorillas. And the caretaker was giving a story and asking the kids, like, who do you think is pregnant? People were pointing at the gorillas with a big tummy. But she's not pregnant. It was one of the gorillas with a big tummy. We don't know what's going on. Because we know exactly what she's being fed. We know exactly what she eats. And still she has a big tummy. Okay? So after the talk of the caretaker, I went up to him and said, that monkey with a big tummy. Could it be that she feels alone and abandoned? And the caretaker looked at me like, and then he started explaining, that's the only gorilla that was actually, that used to live in the wild, that was not bred in captivity. The biological purpose for the theme of being abandoned is like storing water. So the unit for the monkey was, I felt abandoned, taken out of my environment. So the body started reacting, started adapting to the situation. And for that specific theme, the body starts collecting water. Like Sammy made a joke on it before. The body starts collecting water to prevent it from dehydration. To prevent it, even if I'm out there and I'm alone, I still have enough hydrated body. And when there's a lot of water stored, you get a bit sluggish. Watch it to me, right? So that's how you can move back from a physical symptom, where you know the parents. You can move back to the original unit theme and ask the question straight. The question, like, in this case, did you feel abandoned or alone? The monkey didn't say anything, but the caretaker did. And when you know what's going on, that there's a theme running on that issue, you know exactly where you can start working on, exactly where you can start tapping on. So a few minutes ago, we did this exercise with the tonsillitis. You remember? I was something singing. And let's go back to the tonsillitis. Right? Client comes into your office, presents like I have chronic when you look at tonsillitis from a mathematical point of view, it distinctly presents itself in relaxation and restoration phase. Not in the adaptation phase, in the restoration phase. It's actually repair of the tonsils. And that's actually in the restoration phase, because in the first phase, in the stress phase, the tonsils get a little bit larger, a little more energy directly in the physical tissue of the tonsils, because it's a brainstem-directed organ, so it starts creating more cells or more activity in the stress phase. The biological theme of the tonsils, what the tonsils are there for on an emotional, biological level, is to take stuff in fast enough to start digesting. It's almost like you have tasted something and you need to take it in further. A typical example is if you have like one of those lollipops, give it to a child to taste it, and just after they start liking it, ripping it away. That's a typical unit moment where the EMAP of the tonsils start. At first, they start growing a little bit larger, and as soon, in this case, as the client gets the lollipop or is satisfied, now I have it, then the stress can be let go, like, and the relaxation phase starts when the tonsillitis starts usually. Another typical example is a case I heard from a guy who won the lottery. The numbers were on the screen, on the telly, and were exactly matching his ticket. So like really enthusiastic and thrilled, like, I'm gonna buy a new car, I'm gonna buy a new house, and there's a qualification there. He was kind of spending all his money already in his mind. That's the clever thing, not in physical, just in his mind. So he actually tasted the lolly. In this case, tasted the money. Then it came into the news that the lottery draw was invalid. A few weeks later, when he let go of the energy, the tonsillitis covered. So the theme has to do with promising something or being promised something, which is suddenly taken away. And when you know that, and a client comes into your office with tonsillitis, you can start asking me questions. So you can start finding out what the shift moment was, or you can find out what the unit moment was. So now a short exercise. What would you ask the client who presents to you with tonsillitis that started yesterday? What would you ask the client to figure out what the shift moment was or what the unit moment? Just take 2 minutes. Let's do it in groups of two. Just discuss with the neighbor, what would you ask the client have to find out what to start working on?
Just stop here. Okay, so what would you ask your tonsillitis? Either getting to the trigger point or the resolving point.
So the tonsillitis would have come at the resolving point, but I would ask both.
Okay, so how would you form the question?
I would ask, what happened? What is it that you actually got that you'd been waiting a long time to get, but then suddenly lost? It was taken away and you didn't feel like you had it.
Yeah. So what something you get where it was, you know, dramatic and anticipated. You didn't really have a strategy for, but then you started planning, then you started getting that taste in your mouth, and then it was just taken away.
Finish the exercise. I'd like to hear 2 questions. And people already did this exercise with me, please keep quiet. Can you please stand up?
With that diagram, with the example of the tonsillitis, it started at the shift moment feeling great and then went to the Uden. So it goes quite a bit. It's not just the Uden moment there and the it got away. And then
Good question. The Uden moment is the trigger of the evolutionary meaningful adaptation program. Then the body starts reacting. Like in the case of singing, me asking was the trigger for some people. Then the body starts reacting, producing extra adrenaline. In the case of tonsillitis, in the adaptation phase, the tonsils get a little bit larger. Then as soon as there is a shift moment, in the case of singing, me think this was just an exercise, or you didn't pick me, or whatever. Then the body starts repairing itself and comes into start repairing itself. And that's the case when the tonsillitis starts. They start building off the extra tissue of the tonsils to get back into a normal state. So the tonsillitis is part of the regeneration phase. This is a one-way program, one direction street. If I'm here, I can get a new Uden moment, and the principle is one direction. First I have a Uden moment, the body adapts itself, then I have a shift moment, and then the body starts repairing itself. Does that answer your question?
actually, the first thing was being happy and then realizing it Uden. It wasn't.
Correct. With a lot of it, first being happy. Yeah. And then you realize, like, I'm tasting the money that I'm getting. I'm actually digesting all the money that I'm getting. And it's ripped away. It's suddenly not there. And that's the Uden moment. And his shift moment was a few hours later when he realized, like, there's nothing I can do. Let's get rid of the energy. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Excellent. What question can you ask to go from the tonsillitis to either the shift moment or the Uden moment? What would you ask the client? Can you please stand up?
Would it be something like,
You might want to use the microphone. Everybody can hear.
something like, I wonder what's happened in the last little while where you were kind of looking forward to something and then it didn't materialise, or you got a taste of something good and then it got taken away. Something like that, maybe it's generally that way.
Would they find the shift moment or the Uden moment?
Well, what they do is they'd be able to know the time when, you know, it starts to be, yeah.
Would be the Uden. Very good question to find the Uden moment. Excellent. Can I give it that? One more. What question can you ask the client? And let's see what question can you ask to find the shift moment.
It's the
Okay,
same,
please stand up.
it's the same question, but it's not in the big part of things. I would do it about voice. I would say, when and where you first or strongest feel or experience that you were upset, because you needed to express or voice your upset, and someone else or you yourself stopped or stifled that expression, so you could not give voice to that upset.
Okay, excellent question. And that's a brilliant question to ask if there was something actually on a different tissue level.
You can do it much shorter.
Okay, the question.
I actually experienced something from work. I had incredible twists in my nose and mouth, and the dermatologist asked me, is this something that filled you with disgust? From the bottom of my heart, I said no. And years later, it was obviously my baby had explained all took 2 hours.
Mhm.
It was so close that I couldn't access it. It was just blocked away.
Excellent. Yeah.
So I will, we're not going to be able to outline.
It's a matter of, thank you for asking the question. That's usually what happens because part of the biological stressor is the isolated part. You rather talk about different topics than that specific topic. We actually did this exercise during the last training in Australia, where a client actually had that presenting problem of tonsillitis. So we made it into an exercise, and we came up with a question: what was promised to you, and you were really looking forward to it? What was suddenly taken away? What was promised to you, you were really looking forward to it, and was suddenly taken away? That you suddenly got it yesterday. So something that was taken away, where you were really looking forward to it, and was suddenly taken away, but you got it yesterday. So in the case of the candy with the little kid, the lolly was taken away, was really tasting it and golfing in it and feeling and tasting it, and suddenly ripped away. Then what's the unit normal for the tonsils? Then the tonsils start reacting, usually no symptoms, only if it prolongs for a very long time. And as soon as the child tastes the lolly or gets it, the EMAP starts in the second phase, starts restoring itself, and tonsillitis starts. It's something that was promised, that you were really looking forward to it, and you suddenly got it. And when that single question was asked to the client, she was not present, so it was asked overnight and reported back in the next day of the course. The whole story evolved. Like she was sitting at home and really looking forward for her boyfriend to come over and spend the night together and spend the evening together. And she was already planning it and having fun with it. What would we do? How would we go about? And then suddenly he calls like, hey, my buddies called me for asking me to go surfing, and I'm going. So I'm not coming over tonight. That was the unit moment. But it doesn't start with tonsillitis. A few hours later, because she was really, really pissed and angry about it, so her sponsors start reacting. And a few hours later, he called back. He called her back, saying, "I'm coming over. I'm coming over." But she got back. So just by one question, one very almost surgical designed question, you can zoom in right. What happened in that situation, or what happened around that theme? And that's, for me, that's the value of metamedicine. Finding from a physical ailment, from a physical situation, fine-tuning questions to move into what can I ask the client. So instead of tapping on tonsillitis and what happened to you and how you feel about it, where color, you can zoom into straight, direct to a question that pops up in memory. And because in this case it was a chronic issue, from then on we can move further backwards. Like, how often do you experience that something as promised to you and that was taken away? And you can take the energy out of the belief system. If somebody promised something, I need to have it.
You have tea to interrupt so you don't have to get the tonsillitis. You're on board and you think, gosh, I could start to develop something. If you start tapping and moving the energy with it, would that allow the tonsils to go back to normal without you having to go through the pain of horrible tonsillitis?
Okay. In the same metaphor, it would be like I'm running the marathon and I'm doing it extreme, like I'm running double marathon, right? And at the end of the second one, I don't want to feel tired, so I start tapping instead of feeling tired. Would that work? Why not? Body still needs to restore itself. So you cannot interrupt tonsillitis from happening, but what you can do is either decrease the duration or decrease the intensity. Because if I have a, say, a tonsillitis of 6, whatever 6 means, if I can reduce it in the stress range to like 2, then the tonsillitis is a lot less. I need to ask the medical doctor how would you go about when a person comes in with tonsillitis and they don't have tonsils? Then you don't get tonsillitis.
If the pattern match always the same, when you haven't got that particular part of the body.
Mm-hmm. If you don't have that particular part of the body, that particular EMAP program will never start because there's nothing it can start producing. If you don't have saliva glands, it cannot produce extra saliva with your saliva glands. It might jump to different organs which have similar themes.
The problem is that I have changed away, and that traumatized me. Would it affect the different parts of my body?
It all depends on the interpretation, how you interpret the situation. And if you perceive something is promised to me and it's taken away and I feel really stressed about it, it does not have to have the EMAP to start. It doesn't have to have a biological direct reaction. But if you have a biological reaction, you know that the EMAP started. So if I spill water and it's a little bit traumatic, doesn't have my body doesn't need to react. But if my body reacted, I know there was a stressor before.
But if she had no I think what she's saying is if she had no tonsils and that process started, what would happen? Because she's got no tonsils.
If
Does
there's
that
no
make sense?
tonsils, that specific EMAP cannot produce tonsils. The reaction can be different on different organs, but not on the tonsils.
So she wouldn't have, it wouldn't affect her then having that kind of conflict.
Cannot. I cannot look into her head. Nobody can. It depends how she interprets. Because the same situation can be interpreted in different ways. Like, for the example, the lollipop with the child, right? Taken away. The child can also interpret it like, I never get what I want.
No, but what I mean is, and I think this is what you're saying, if you have that conflict and
Can you
that,
please talk on the mic?
sorry, if you have that conflict, if the conflict starts and you have no tonsils, but you have the conflict, where in the, can you feel that in anywhere else in the body? Would that then affect another part of the body, perhaps another part of the neck, or do you know what I mean?
No, it will not start in another part.
Oh, so you can have the conflict, but it won't affect that part of the body.
One question there.
That sounds weird.
Can you please stand up? And the mic is coming at you.
It's incredibly common. I'm GP, and what happens is it goes into a pharyngitis instead. So they get inflammation around where the tonsils would be, and this is one of the reasons why people who have tonsillectomies, which luckily has gone way down now, then continue to get tonsillitis when they have no tonsils.
That's because you have that part in the brain still. Every part of the body has a corresponding part of the brain. Exactly. Okay, thanks. That's what I wanted to know.
Caroline, one more question? No, back here in the front. Okay, get 2 more questions. One second.
If that person then didn't get what they wanted, so this downward sort of curving back thing.
Also start growing larger and larger and larger and larger.
We take them out.
So then they're not.
And at a certain moment in time, they become so large that probably the general way is take them out.
No,
Stand up.
It was because that there's a resolution. We can't
Okay.
largely to do with it because there's not a repair phase.
When there's no repair phase, this phase just starts belonging in my bit. So, okay, last question here.
Are you saying then there is no cure for Christmas flu?
So like, if you're under stress, you get better results.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Let me answer that. I'm here for the entire day, and I want to keep notice of lunchtime. So, the question is: so there's no cure for Christmas flu. This is also the place where the flu starts. When you can increase, this is a little bit more advanced, but when you can increase the energy, the physical, emotional energy during the resolution phase, the symptoms become less. So if you take energy drinks, or you start going to the gym, or start worrying about something, then this depth is like increasing, so it's not as deep. So the intensity of the respiration is not as intense. It's more shallow. It's more like this. The symptoms reduce, but it needs to prolong. Did that answer your question?
Yes,
Excellent. So, concluding, evolutionary meaningful adaptation program is something you really want in life because it protects you from situations. It's not so much the unit that's a problem, it's the duration, how long you hold on to the unit, how long you keep the stress. So that's why it's easy to start working on it as soon as you notice it. As soon as you notice, like, okay, this is something that bothers me, start releasing the energy. So the value is from a physical level to move to an emotional level as fast as possible, so you can work on an emotional level on certain disease levels. There are a few resources that I created that can help you. I created an application, an app for your iPhone or your Android. The car still says only iPhone, but forgot to update it. It's available on Android and iPhone. It's basically free for the most part, where you can type in your tissue, like tonsils or epidermis outside of the skin, or liver parenchyma, the meat part of the skin, and you go to the emotional theme. And that's where the unit moment is described. So when a client comes into your office and presents a certain symptom, you need to know what tissue is affected, and then you can, with a few clicks, you know what emotional theme is behind it. Another thing that I created is kind of a summary. Sorry, what's that? Oh, I'm sorry, email calls. You can also pick one of those green cards in the back, and so you know what to look for. Then I created 2 mini cards you can print out, and you can take it in your wallet. It's kind of frustrating because after like 5 days of training, I say this is a summary. But it gives you some clues on how you can work with it. Especially this one describes the 2 phases. You can download this for free when you sign up for the information on metamedicine.com. And then you get an email with a few resources, including this. Including these mini cards. And I usually have them in my wallet, so I can always look for them. Metamedicine.com. The app is called EMAP. So how many of you had some new insights today? Okay. How many of you was this valuable? Valuable. Yeah, it's working on my action. So when you understand these principles, instead of just chasing the pain, where's the pain now, where's the feeling now, where's the symptom now, you can go straight to the emotional cause of the issue. And this presentation, this talk is not just the tip of the iceberg, it's actually just the tip of the iceberg. But at least when you know that most symptoms are in the regeneration and restoration phase, in the blue phase, you can ask two types of questions, right? What is the unit moment? You can find it in EMAP calls. And to the flip side, what's the shift moment? So to close off, I really would like to thank actually three people, and probably more. One is Ted for actually organizing this beautiful congress with a great speaker. And actually for inviting me too. I'd like to thank Carl for developing Matrix and bringing your knowledge out and contributing and spreading this great energy release technique. That's a bad thing about being a little bit introverted and standing in front of the audience, right? But where can I hide? There's nowhere to pass. And the last person I would like to thank is probably the most important person in the room. And that's the person who takes time and investment in energy and developing and helping other people to actually be the best that they can. And that person also helps me to realize my mission is to empower other people to eventually heal the world. And it's you. So big round.
Do you want even more free videos? Just go to free.biocompass.org and we have a ton of more stuff for you.